Hola, mi gente, it's Vero, and I wanted to make this video because I wanted to share some information that helped me understand how the mind works. And in the Mental Academy's Q&A session we had, some thoughts got triggered in my mind, so I wanted to kind of share a different perspective of um, information that also helped me understand um, understand more, basically. And I wrote some points down so I don't forget. But so basically, when we're born, our subconscious is, think of it as it being open, right? And being able to absorb a lot of information that at this age, now that we're older, we're not necessarily our subconscious is not necessarily open the way it was. And so what happens is, as we grow up, we have certain impressions upon us that were done when we were kids, when we were young enough to absorb a lot of information. And so that's why it's important to be aware of how we speak to our children and our kids, because they're absorbing a lot of this information. So, when you grow up in a household where you're always being yelled at, always being told what to do and not explain why, more commands and less conversation, which a lot of us Black and brown households were raised in, those are the types of habitual thoughts that we continue to tell ourselves. And let me get into that right now. So that's one part that I wanted to cover. And within that, there's so much, but I'm just giving you guys like the tip of the iceberg. So that's one part. We're born, our subconscious are more perceptive, and thoughts and ideas and beliefs are impressed upon us. Now, then there's habitual thought. Our bodies and our minds work together. And even though a lot of times we may think that our minds are the ones in control, our body is the ones that are actually in control. And there's a good book that Lucky recommends that's called the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. Incredible book. But anyways, what happens is our bodies are the ones that take over. And we're just constantly working off of habitual thoughts. So, for example, ever find yourself driving and thinking, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, how did I drive through that area? The last time I literally remembered driving, being conscious of driving, was back then, and now I'm over here. Like, that's when you have actually encountered how the body can function without your mind. And it's incredible. It's incredible. So that's the second part that I'm covering. We're born with subconscious open. Our bodies a lot of times take control of our thoughts and our functioning. Now, moving on to the next section that I wanted to cover. And it's a lot of information in once. So make sure you guys do your research. So, because of what we get what gets impressed upon us, and the habitual thoughts, a lot of the times what we're doing is we're telling ourselves stories, and we're constantly telling ourselves the same stories that we may have been told as kids. You're stupid, you suck, you're not good enough. Oh, if it's not one thing, it's another. I mean, as a culture, we have these sayings that we say constantly. If it ain't one thing, it's another. Oh, like just things like that are more negative, but we're constantly telling ourselves the same thing. And when we're doing that, what we're doing is we're actually creating that actual reality. So when Lucky's talking about you need to create, you want to first start with changing the way you're talking to yourself. So try and be aware of what you're saying to yourself today. and tomorrow and the next day. And if you catch yourself saying something that's not nice, then be aware of it. Okay, I see. Don't beat yourself up because you're just continuing the cycle. But that's when you start becoming aware of your habitual thoughts, is by consciously being like, oh, I just did that. Let me just stop real quick. No, I'm incredible. I'm amazing. Things are always working out. And what you notice is when you start, that's when affirmations can sort of help, because what you can do is you start changing your habit. So when you start telling yourself over and over different things, so I started telling myself, life is always working out for my best and highest good. Life is always one opportunity after another, and beautiful things are always happening. And once I started doing that, I noticed that my mind would all of a sudden randomly start thinking those thoughts of the things that I started saying to myself. And that was one way I started breaking my habit of talking to myself another way that I was constantly used to, because that's all I knew. And that's one start on how you can start creating your reality and changing your reality from what you don't want to what you do want. So I wanted to come in and share this information and just kind of give you a little tip and a little something to think about, because for me, it helped me to learn better when I knew why I was doing what I was doing. So I hope this helped.